Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about Daymaster strength, and actually a bit more about it than just the strength. I'm also going to talk about your chart strength, overall chart strength. Now this is my standard disclaimer. I don't do Batsa, so putting your birth date and time in the comments won't help you, and it increases your chance of having identity theft, so please do not do that. Now, in this video, basically you need to ignore anything in the Joey Yap analysis. You can pay attention to the 8 characters, the Batsa, but he doesn't mention Daymaster strength or weakness. He doesn't seem to consider it at all, which is fine if that's his prerogative. Now, you can use the Batsa chart, those 8 characters, from the Joey Yap analysis to determine what your Daymaster strength is. The data is there. It is not that difficult to do, but when he talks, he never talks about Daymaster strength, or hardly ever. Now, in just reading all these people's blogs and people asking questions, many people seem to be very concerned about the strength of their Daymaster, and most appear to want to have a strong Daymaster. But from my reading, and that's often in response to questions that people ask about their Daymaster, what seems to be actually more important is the entire chart balance rather than if you have a strong or weak Daymaster. Because you could have a strong Daymaster that is so weakened by the elements that it turns weak. And you could have a weak Daymaster that becomes strong because of the elements that are in the chart. That's my understanding. And this is from more than one source. Douglas Chan is one of them that talks about this, but there are several others too. Now, a strong Daymaster with more elements that weaken it can be a better chart than a chart that strengthens a strong Daymaster. That may seem counterintuitive, but that does seem to be the agreement among people who are much more experienced than I am. Now, a weak Daymaster with more elements that strengthen it can be a better chart than a chart that weakens the Daymaster further. Now, most people have no problem with this statement. They agree upon it. Same thing is true for a strong Daymaster. You don't want to be too strong. There are people who have balanced, overall balanced charts, and this has to do with your favorable and unfavorable elements. What Joey Yap looks at in his elemental balance or his spiderweb chart, he is just looking at the elements as I guess a total possible potential you could have of this, because he does it in percentages. He doesn't seem to, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a balanced chart there. But that is a different measure than what we're talking about here. And I think that will become a little clearer as time goes on. Now, the Batsa calculator, this is why I gave you this site, because it does it for free and it gives you this information, this balance of your favorable and unfavorable elements. It tells you the amount of elements that support, which means strengthening, and those that oppose, which means weakening, of the elements with your Daymaster as the focus. The closer you are to 50-50 on the Batsa calculator site, the closer you are to a balanced chart. Now, there are 3 methods available on the Batsa calculator site. Now, this is a facsimile of what you will see. It's on the right-hand side where you get to do all kinds of settings. Most of them you have to pay for, but this is in, I think, the left-hand column of the 2 columns with the settings, and a little closer to the bottom, but not at the bottom. But you have a modern HHS, which I thought meant heaven hidden stem, but now I'm not sure. And then you have traditional, and then you have the Kenlai method. And if you do this, I suggest you actually print out, whether it's PDF or on paper, each one of these, because they could well be different. And some people's are quite different. And this is one reason why I don't do Batsa, because I honestly don't understand why these are all different. So, but they can give you different results. I want you to use 0 GMT and your solar time of birth, but this does a little funky something with 0 GMT, but this is what you want to use in general. If you were born, let's say, between 1 and 3 a.m., just put in 2 a.m. so that it's right in the middle. Usually that will give you the best results. Now, I hope you've done the Joey App chart already. You have to make sure that the Batsa that comes out of here agrees with the Joey App chart. It's possible to have a difference in hour. If you were born close to midnight, it's possible it could also screw up in the day. And if you were born close to a month change, it could even screw up in the month. And the same is true with the year change. So you have to make sure that the Batsa you get from the Batsa calculator is the same one you get from the Joey App chart, because this one does do it properly in your time. And remember, in the Joey App chart, you are putting in your solar time of birth. Now, you may find that your elemental balance is different with these methods, and there is a way to look at that. And actually, it's different from mine, but I seem to have a pretty sensitive chart to which method is being used. But also, your this kind of balance can also be different with the different methods. So this will show you how much difference it's possible to have with your chart. And I think this covers the major ones. And this is why this is such a useful site. Now, the Chinese Metasoft site has one advantage. Unfortunately, it's not free except for a short time, but I do think they have some pretty cheap short-term subscriptions. Just remember to cancel it. But they will tell you what condition you have in terms of the strengthening and weakening in words. So you don't have to guess what this means, because this is a little complicated. Um, it can be actually kind of confusing. In fact, I'm still a little confused because I happen to have a balance chart. It's actually 50-50 under the Kenlai. So I don't quite know what this all means. But the Chinese Metasoft site tells you in words. And I use the Chinese Metasoft site for several things. This is why I have a year subscription to this. But this is something that's worth it. Get your Chiman chart, your Chiman Destiny chart, and make sure you pick Destiny when you're filling out which chart you want to look at, and get your Batsa chart. These two, and just print them out in PDF form, is really good because you can always refer to them. And just have these on hand because these are very useful. Now, traditionally, the way you figure out whether your daymaster is weak or strong, and there's no balanced daymaster traditionally, is by looking at the season which you were born, and that comes from the month of your birth, and what the element of your daymaster is. So look in your chart, look under the month pillar, and find the animal sign. It will be listed in one of these seasons. And then in that row, wherever your month animal sign is, go across until you find your daymaster element. Ignore the polarity. I don't care if you have the yin version or the yang version of an element. It doesn't matter. We're just looking, is it water, wood, metal, earth, or fire? And if you're not sure where your daymaster is, although I've talked about this already, your daymaster is the heaven stem, that's the top row in your day pillar. So it'll be an element. And Joey Yap has it in both Chinese and English, so you can find out what it is. So if you happen to fall into these two categories, you're considered strong. The difference be strong and very strong, there is a bit of a difference, but at this point in time, it doesn't matter. Uh, if you went into a super in-depth analysis, which I am not capable of doing at this point, uh, there's a difference. But right now, it's not important. If you happen to fall in any of these three columns, your daymaster is weak. Now, just on average, just by chance, random chance, you've got 2 out of 5 to be strong, 3 out of 5 to be weak. So you're more likely to have a weak chart. Now, the exhausted does mean that it's very, very weak. Um, and different people give slightly different names to these guys, but this is kind of uh, the most understandable one in English because they put names that don't necessarily make it very clear what they mean in some of the other ones. But these are standard translations from the Chinese. I just try to make this as clear as possible. So, using myself as an example, if you've just watched the video that came out about dealing with um, what your elements mean, uh, I am a wood daymaster and I was born in the month of the ox. So I was born in winter, so that makes me a strong daymaster. And and the Chinese Metasoft site will say by season and list what it is. And it says strong for me, as it should. Now the mix of favorable and unfavorable elements that you have in your batza can possibly balance the function of your daymaster. So it can make your daymaster behave better. That is, you can interact with people better if you have a more balanced daymaster. Now, I don't know exactly where all of these elements come from because, and I will talk about this several videos down the road, but there are all kinds of combinations and clashes that modify the elements. And I don't know if that's all included here or if you're just looking at the elements that are in the batza directly. I have a feeling that's what they're doing, but I am not 100% sure. And and it's very hard to find information about this. These people are very guarded about the method that they use to analyze all this. You can learn from them, but it's thousands of US dollars to do that. So my business doesn't have the money right now. Now, the mix of favorable and unfavorable elements can improve or worsen the function of your daymaster. So this is why it's important. Both the Batsa calculator and the Chinese Metasoft site show the balance in terms of numbers, but only the Chinese Metasoft site states it in words, and this is where it's really super clear what it means. So there will be a section that looks like this. I didn't take a screenshot because the Chinese Metasoft site stuff is copyrighted, so I did a facsimile of what it will look like. And there will be a section on the right hand side, and it's usually just a bit below where the luck pillar is, and it says Daymaster Strength. It'll say by season, and this is for me, so it says strong. I have 30 for strengthening, 30 for weakening. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe they just count up the elements. That's possible. And so it listed as almost balanced. I believe if this is the strengthening, the one on the left. So if this were if it were like 49-51, it probably would say balanced because I'm already a strong daymaster. So if it's 50-50, I probably have very slight tendency to be on the strong side, but it's very close to balanced. So the Batsa calculator under the Kenline method also shows 50-50. So and the Chinese Metasoft site, one of its methods that it uses is also can lie. So it's probably looking at the same thing. Here in the BOTSA calculator, you can look at different methods. It doesn't seem like you can do that at the Chinese Metasoft site. It's just, you just get one output. But again, it tells you in words, which can make it much less confusing. So um, this, by just this itself, it's worth it to get this for everybody in your family because the Chinese Metasoft site is so much more complete. Now, you only have to do it for, I think there's even a 1 week subscription. And as long as you cancel it, when you've finished with all those charts from the Chinese Metasoft site, just cancel it. And then you don't have to worry about it. And I think that's a very good way to deal with it. Now, this is what it will look like on the Chinese Metasoft site. It'll just say DM strength. I mean, sorry, this is the BOTSA calculator site. The stuff in red is what I've added to tell you what method is being used. It doesn't list that. It just will list DM strength, and then it will give you something that is roughly these colors. And it also says 50-50. And and so pretty much it would consider me balanced, but almost balanced. That's basically the same thing. But if I go to the modern HHS method, I get 52 strengthening, 48 weakening. So I think this would be, if I could check that with the Chinese Metasoft site, it probably would consider this strong. Not super strong, but strong. And that's how sensitive this almost balanced is and balanced. It's really, really tight. Only a few percentage makes a difference. However, if I happen to be a weekday master, this might be considered balanced. It's a little bit unclear to me, but I'm not a weekday master, so and I can't check this method within the Chinese Metasoft site. So you have limitations. And but if you look at all of these, you've got 3 here and you've got 1 here, uh, and at least this one tells you in words. So uh, when you get this all together, you should have some decent idea of what you are. Now, the traditional one is included, and that is even more skewed towards strong. Um, but I think that the reason why traditional is no longer being used by many people is because it doesn't seem to apply in the modern day when life is very, very different. So we have a lot more opportunities, which we didn't have back then, when BOTSA was first created. So I don't think the traditional one is used very much. Now, the closer you are to a balanced chart, it is predicted that your life is likely to be smoother. And that's because you're not on the extreme end of how you interact with people. So let's consider this. If you're a strong day master with a strong chart, that makes you super strong. It can make you overbearing, very demanding, and few people like to work with such people. They just don't even want to interact with them. So you tend to lose out on opportunities because nobody's going to approach you because you'll just try to take over. A weekday master with a weak chart basically means others will take advantage of you, and you're usually also too afraid to take any risks. So even if a good opportunity comes along and you think it's a good opportunity, you're too scared to take it. So you lose out on opportunities also. People with balanced charts are willing to take reasonable risks. They evaluate before they start to do something, but they're not too scared and they're not too bullish either. And they're not a dictator. They are they're fine with just doing a piece of the puzzle. And so they generally have the best chance to take advantage of the opportunities that come along. So I want you to consider if you happen to come up with a fantastic idea and you've got friends that have strong day masters weekday masters and balanced, the charts. And would you go to the person with a strong day master? You know he or she wants to just take over the project, may even steal your idea. Very few people would go to the strong day master. And I'm assuming here that you've got this great idea, but you don't have all the skills that you need, so you want to get some help from some other people. You probably would avoid the strong day master because there's a decent chance they would steal your idea. You probably would approach a weekday master, but in the end, they would say no because they're just too afraid to take any risks. It's the balanced people that will take the risk if they think it's a good idea, and this is the one you're most likely to be able to work with. That's why a balanced chart is so important, because you're not an extreme on either end. Now, the cure for a strong day master, and it's not really a cure, but basically is you've got to practice letting go of control and letting others lead. Now, this is not easy. It's when you have a strong day master with strong charts. I mean, this is really painful for them. And but this is what you need to do to improve how you interact with others. For weekday masters with weak charts, you need to gain some leadership skills, and this can be done in various ways. I think there are even classes you can take for this. And you need to practice these leadership skills. Volunteer for a small project at work, not a big one, but a small one. Start taking some small risks and evaluate how it went. See maybe where you were right, maybe where you were wrong, so that you know how to evaluate another opportunity that comes along. Now, balanced and almost balanced day masters already have it about right, but they still have to be mindful of their actions. They shouldn't jump in without thinking. They should evaluate an opportunity, and they can also be careful that uh, if somebody else is leading, let them lead. I mean, if they ask for suggestions, you can give them suggestions, but don't try to give them a lot of advice because they probably don't want to hear it. I mean, whoever is supposed to be who's got the idea and in charge or whatever. So you let your boss be your boss, and then you're usually okay. Now, the reason why cure is in quotes is because there's not really a cure. This is more like a mitigation. What you're doing is you're making adjustments in how you interact with others to be able to basically have more opportunities. So, your favorable elements, and this is getting to the real heart of it, these are determined by your daymaster and its strength. Elements that are favorable for strong daymasters are the element that the daymaster produces, the element that they control, and the element that controls them. So these three elements weaken a strong daymaster. That's how they balance it, and that's why they're favorable. Elements that are favorable for a weekday master is the same element as the day master and elements that produce the day master. So these two elements strengthen a weak day master. And that's again how it balances the chart. And that's why they're the favorable elements. It is my suggestion from listening to a lot of people who know a lot more about it than I do, pay more attention to your overall chart balance and less attention on your daymaster strength, because it's the overall chart balance that determines how you interact with people. That's my understanding. If you have a strong chart, and you notice I say chart, not daymaster, but chart, use the strong daymaster favorable elements or the strong chart favorable elements. And if you have a weak daymaster, you're going to use the weak favorable elements. And I'll list them in just a second. If you have a balanced or almost balanced chart, you can actually use any element depending on your need. And you usually have a pretty good idea of how to deal with this. So, and also people with balanced charts tend to actually have the ability to do a lot more things because they have an ability to look at life a little bit differently. So it's not I have to control everything like a for a strong chart, and I have to avoid problems for a weak chart. I mean, that's generally how people might look at that in those two groups. The balanced one basically knows has the skills that they can deal with either kind of person. So this is the favorable elements. And so if you have a strong chart, I don't care what your daymaster is, we're talking about overall you have this strong chart. These are your favorable elements. These are the elements that actually weaken your daymaster. And and that will weaken your chart. So you get it closer to being balanced. And so you just find your daymaster element. Again, we don't care if it's the yin or the yang version of it. We're just looking at the element. And and you can see that the daymaster has 3 favorable elements for each one, and that the weak charts only have 2. But that's fine because you're able to use any one of these. And usually, well, let's put it this way. These things may be hard for you to use. If you have a weak chart, you probably have a hard time using these things. Um, but the strong chart also has a hard time using these things too. So using your favorable element isn't easy, but it's what balances your chart. And that's why it's important. Now, if the element is not listed under your favorable elements, it means it's an unfavorable element. So someone who has wood as their daymaster and has a strong chart, fire, earth, and metal are their favorable elements. And if they have a weak chart, then wood and water are their favorable elements, and then these are all their unfavorable, and so forth. It's, I think, pretty straightforward. Now, using your favorable element means learning or using the talents that people with high levels basically naturally exhibit of whatever the favorable element you're trying to use. So this is why it's not easy. You don't necessarily have much of this element in here, because if you did, you'd be closer to balanced. So, and the same thing here. So it is hard to do, but it's useful, and that's the key. Now, this does not mean having the object made of that element around you or wearing certain colors. Remember, the element represents actions or activities. It does not represent an element. This was used to help you remember the rules, and they just put them with 5 different elements. This isn't the real element. Uh, I mean, you're not going to burn yourself to use fire, right? I mean, that is stupid. So, uh, in theory, yes, if you actually had the element, maybe it could do something. But you're not going to put these things other than water into your body. So, you know, we're talking about what you're doing, the actions you take. That's what using an element means. Now, I do want to point out a couple things. Your favorable element, these elements here, this is different than your useful God. And I've talked about the useful God in relationship to Batsa and Shimen and all this stuff, and health. That's the only really place that I've talked about a useful God up to now. Now, your favorable elements are based on your daymaster and its strength, and this has to do with actions you take. Your useful God is based on the season of your birth, and it has to do with improving your health. That is, if you use this element. For example, if fire is your useful element or your useful God, you make sure you stay warm, and uh, and you don't let yourself maybe you move to a warm climate if you can. That is what it means. That is, you are adding more heat into your life. And in this case, it is where you're living. And sometimes water can be your most useful element. So you, uh, for water, you would be drinking more water. These are the two simple ones. Wood, if wood is your useful element, you don't want to drink alcohol because uh, usually when wood is your useful element, you have trouble with your liver. If earth is your useful element, you basically um, often have to be careful about your weight because this often, people with earth as their useful element, um, you, you want to stay at a healthy weight. And you can often be too skinny if earth is your useful element. I think that's what it says. And for metal, metal has to do with physical strength. And so uh, you would exercise more if you have metal as your useful element. But you really should, if you're really interested in this, you need to watch the health thing because this was well over a year ago. I really only remember water and fire because these are for summer and winter. In the fall and the spring, it's a lot harder to determine your useful God, and different masters may tell you different answers. So it's a little tricky. But you can test them all out. Using them never hurts you. You just find which one works for you best. Now, you can have a balanced chart that is in here in terms of your favorable and unfavorable element balance, while having an unbalanced element chart from Joey App, that spider web looking thing. As you note, I have like 50-50. This is my balance, but I have an unbalanced chart in my spiderweb chart. I definitely do not have a balanced chart. It's quite skewed towards the resources. So even though both of these things are based on the chart elements in your chart, they are very different in how they're interpreted. So they just mean two separate things. So don't mix these two up because this is easy to do. But you are looking at something in a completely different viewpoint. Here you're looking at, does this strengthen or weaken the daymaster? Here you're just looking at the number of elements. That's it. And you don't even care about the daymaster. So how do you use these elements? This is really the heart of this. So how do you balance your elements? If wood is your useful or your favorable element, what does that mean? It basically means you need to learn something new, travel to new locations. The more exotic, the better. Of course, what you define as exotic is important. Uh, and so experience new things, grow intellectually, grow emotionally, that kind of thing. Because wood is growth and transformation. Now, fire is passion and energy. So basically, if you need to use fire, if that is a favorable element for you, you want to try to find a passion. And it doesn't have to stay forever. You can have several passions throughout your life. But when you have a passion, it usually gives you energy to pursue it. But if energy is your real problem, then gain some physical fitness to increase your energy. And in general, you should have physical fitness of some sort because otherwise you age a lot faster. Now, Earth, it has two things. Earth is kind of unusual. The Yang version is very, very stable, and the Yin version is very nurturing. So you either could have problems with empathy, or maybe you have problems with instability if you need to use earth as a favorable element. And so you can pursue a stable job or even a stable relationship. This can help bring some order to your life, and that's what it means by using earth. And usually when you have this, you improve your empathy all by itself. But it can go the other way too. You can improve your empathy that will lead to more stability in your life. So it's kind of like two sides of a coin. For metal, metal is focus and strength, and it usually means not necessarily physical strength, but it can, but it also means mental strength. So you want to improve your focus, and meditation can really help with that. A lot of people, when they meditate regularly, they actually improve their focus more. But you need to challenge yourself mentally and a bit physically too, if that's also permissible, especially if it makes you feel better. But challenging yourself to be more resilient and more persistent in what you're trying to do, that's how you use metal. When it comes to water, water is adaptable and changeable, and it's like water. So this would mean moving to a different culture, maybe a different country, trying completely new things, things you've never tried before. This is how you use water. You experience new things. Now, I'm going to only be focusing on people with strong or weak charts, as those with balanced charts can actually use any element based on their need. And that basically has to do with what is missing for them. And they often do this automatically because they are balanced and they understand what they need. So, if you have a strong, if you have a wood day master, and I don't care if your wood day master is weak or strong, but you have a weak chart. That's the key. If you have a weak chart, what you need to do is use wood or water. Now, one of the common problems with someone who's weak in wood is they're not moving forward in life. They are they are stuck in their job. They're stuck in their relationship. They just don't seem to be moving forward. Now, remember, wood is about growth, and if this is your day master and you have a weak chart, you don't know how to use that. So again, you can use wood. This supports you um, by, uh, by helping you become stronger in the wood. That is, wood is about growth. So this helps you learn new things. And water basically helps you grow because you're a wood day master. Water produces wood, so this helps you have an easier time to grow. You have what you need to be able to grow. Now, to be more specific, if you're going to use wood, what you need to do is learn new things, expand your horizon. That means experiencing new things. This can help you break out of being stuck as you see other ways to live, other ways to do things. Uh, this can give you new energy for what is particularly for your job. You can actually maybe come up with a better way of doing things because you see somebody else doing something differently. So this is one of the more powerful ones. Now, using water, basically you need to become less rigid, and that is often quite tough. Um, but if you have empathy, um, or if you don't, then you just have to learn, just basically to become more accepting of different ideas and new views on life. This again forces you out of your stuck zone and you see things differently. And that allows you to become unstuck. Now, if you have a wood day master, again, I don't care if it's weak or strong, but you have a strong chart. Oftentimes, these people have too many projects going on. There's no focus. They're growing too fast and too much. And so what they need is something to tap down on this growth. And so they can use fire, earth, or metal. And using fire, basically, you end up focusing less on everything and more on one thing so that you reduce the number of projects you're looking at least at any given time. And if you use earth, basically this helps stabilize scattered ideas. Things become a little more stable. And again, it's through focusing on just one thing at a time. And the metal, this focus also helps you reduce all the things that are going on and helps you focus on one thing at a time. And that is kind of the key. This is the problem with a wood day master with a strong chart. They often have just too much on their plate and nothing gets done because you're jumping from subject to subject, and it's really hard to get anything done because before you can really focus, you're already on to the next project. So if you're going to use fire, what you need to do is decide to focus on one thing. And it helps if it's the one you're most passionate about. And of course, you're going to aim to do just one thing at a time. That is, focus on this, get some real work done, and something that really moves the project forward before you think about moving on to something else. If you use earth, you're going to reduce your workload or your interests so that you can focus on either one or a small number of projects, so that you have more stability in what your day-to-day life is like, and you're not doing way too much stuff. If you use metal, you're going to concentrate on just one topic at a time. And this is the general thing. You have to reduce all of your projects. You don't necessarily have to reduce them, but you can't work on all of them on the same day because nothing gets done. And you use your persistence, you learn how to use your persistence to finish one thing before you start on the next, or at least make significant progress in one thing before you move on to the next. So now we're going to talk about fire day masters. And again, it doesn't matter if the day master itself is weak or strong, we're talking about a weak chart. So generally, these people don't have passion. They're not happy with their life or their job. They just feel like they don't know why, what is their purpose in life, basically. And they need to use either fire or wood. This will help them create a passion. And of course, the fire, using fire itself, this supports you, helps you develop more passion. And using wood helps you grow, expand your views so that you can actually look at your life and your job differently. And that can help you understand what your purpose is. Now, by using fire, one thing you can do if there's just you can't find something in your job, one really good thing to do is find a hobby you can be passionate about. Hobbies don't carry the worry about earning money, so that frees you up to be more creative, and also frees you up to develop more passion because you're just not worried about what the bottom line is. You want to be involved with a hobby because it makes you feel good. Now, if you use wood, you're going to need to learn something new, experience new cultures, or at least new people in your life that come from different cultures. And this can actually help you um, see what you really appreciate in your own life. And that can become a passion. But it can also make you happier in general just because you're not so like you see what else is out there, and you can become happier with what you have. So you're not just like, this isn't good enough, but then maybe it is good and you just don't realize it. So again, fire day master, don't care the strength of the day master. We're talking about a strong chart. Now, megalomania is that you have an extreme focus on just one thing and to the exclusion of everything else. So you have no balance in your life, and that often means you don't take care of your health, you don't take care of your relationships. It often leads to illnesses and divorces and things like this. And that's because you're really too focused. So you need to tamp down. You need to put your energy into something that reduces the fire. And so you have these three choices. If you use earth, you're looking for stability through determining you're going to have a more balanced life. So you start to practice regular eating and sleeping habits. You simply use your determination, because somebody who has megalomania has a lot of determination. So you don't lack passion, but you have to spread your passion out to include healthier living and include caring about other people that are already in your life, or maybe somebody new who can come along. If you're using metal, you're going to use fortitude, your mental strength, to control your urge to overwork. And, and you simply have to set limits. And you're using your mental fortitude to obey those limits. If you use water, you're going to be changing up your routine. Um, and this can actually expand your ability to find and focus on other aspects of your life, because you everything changes. And this, in some ways this is also using earth, but you're doing it in a different way. Um, you're nurturing other parts of your life. So that's the yin version of earth. And so this allows you to care more about, health and sleeping and eating and actually having a more balanced life. And that comes from changing your routine. Just simply, you you have to force this. Now, most of the time, you're actually using more than one of these at a time. So, example, if you're going to change your routine, you probably need a little bit of metal there to have the determination to actually do it, because changing your routine can be quite tough. Now, weak day masters, I'm sorry, earth day masters, I don't care if they're weak or strong, but they have a weak chart. So they need to use earth or fire. And you can use earth to increase your stability. People that have a weak chart and an earth day master, they often feel adrift, or they might not have compassion or very low compassion. So they can be cold and aloof and don't seem to care about people. But the more common one is feeling adrift. They don't know, they don't have a path in life. They don't know where they're going. And, and they just seem to float. And they need the stability to feel like they can determine what their path will be. Fire basically creates more passion, and that tends to lead to more stability because you have a focus. So again, earth is about support and stability. So it could be from a stable job. That is, really look for a stable job, even if it's maybe not one you think you're going to love or even like. But if it's a stable job, that helps. But a stable relationship can do the same thing. This helps the feeling of being adrift lessen, because you have something you can count on. And that's why you being adrift is a bit less. Now, you could turn this around. You could become a supportive person for somebody else. And this can give you a meaning in your life too. And this is if you feel like you don't have compassion. This is actually kind of important. You could just volunteer for people less fortunate too. That can help. If the problem seems to be lack of compassion. Now, using fire, basically what you're doing is you're using a passion so that you have more of a focus, and that will bring stability into your life. And that's what you need when you have a weak chart and an Earth Day Master. Now, if you have an Earth Day Master and a strong chart, if it's too strong, that could mean that you're too rigid, and you also don't have forward movement, because you would say there's only one way to do this, and that's it, and you're not willing to try something new. And so you can see that water will be a really good one, because we know water is about change and adaptation. So that will be one of the key ones, of course. And of course, you can use any one of these. And oftentimes, again, it's a combination of some of these things. So if you're going to use metal, you use your the focus to explore new things. That is, you often are able to focus pretty good. I mean, that's because that comes along with being kind of rigid. Um, but this time, instead of trying to focus on this is the only way to do something, you focus on looking at other ways to live, or finding new friends that are way outside your circle. Um, and this can help you accept change, which makes you less rigid. And so when you're less rigid, you usually move forward automatically because you can see other ways to do things. Now, if you use water, again, it's exploring new things, um, especially things that are very different than what you are currently doing. And this usually ends up resulting in you seeing the usefulness of at least some changes. And that reduces your rigidity and allows you to, again, find new ways to do things, which moves you forward. And for wood, this is about learning and growth. That's what wood is about. And so this is basically you want to try to actually experience new ways to live, new foods. This is an easy way to do it. This can broaden your outlook and help you move forward. Maybe you may have food that you find quite inedible when you're trying something new, but you may find a cuisine that you absolutely love. And this will really help you do different things and experience different things. And it opens you up to a lot more things. Because the earth, when it's strong, it tends to be fairly rigid. It doesn't always, it's just not always that way, but when it's not acting well, that's what can happen. Now, for metal, basically people that have a weak chart and a metal daymaster, they tend to lack conviction, and they tend to also have a lot of scattering in their thinking. They have trouble focusing because they have a weak chart. Now, of course, you can use metal or you can use earth, and because these are your favorable elements. If you use metal, my biggest thing would say to practice meditation. It typically improves your ability to focus. And when you can focus better, you don't have such scattered thoughts. You can think more coherently and clearly. And that almost always helps you. Now, using earth, um, you want to simplify your life so that it can be more stable. Because when you have scattered thinking, you often don't you don't have a very stable life because you're always off on a tangent. So if you simplify your life, that tends to lead to more stability, and so you focus on just a few things. That's sort of the key. Now, if you have a metal daymaster and a strong chart, you can be too focused. And again, this can lead you to not taking care of your health or your loved ones. This can have quite negative effects. So you would need to use one of these. And so we have the water, wood, and fire. So if you use water, you will be, again, experiencing new ways to live. Broaden your focus. This brings balance to your life. Uh, Getting friends that are from different countries is really a simple way to do this. And, um, you know, try to learn about what they do for celebrations and things like this, and try to participate with them if the other person is amenable for you to do that. This will give you a whole new view of things and stop you from being too focused because, again, you see other ways to live. If you use wood, it's learning new things, experiencing new things. It broadens your focus and, again, brings some more balance to your life. If you use fire, uh, basically here it's a little bit different. What you're doing is you're using a focus to improve some aspects of your life that you have been ignoring. So you what you're taking is your really strong focus and expanding it to and usually at at one at a time you focus on maybe your health, and then maybe a little later you focus on your family or something like this. So you move your focus. You're still very focused because this is probably one of the easier ones to use. You just change your focus to things that you've been ignoring. Now, this is the last of the elements. If you have a water day master and a weak chart, basically your problem is you can't adapt to change or crisis. Crises are real crises for you. If you use water, you're going to, again, adapt, just learn to deal with change because you're weak in it, and you need to do this more. And if you use metal, you're going to use focus, and that will allow you to change because you can focus on the big problem and see a way forward. So, if you're using water, basically you force yourself to seek change, and this helps you become more adaptable. Examples are like moving to a new city or a new country. That's one example. Gaining friends from different countries is another example, or different cultures, and just broadening, seeing how other people live, paying attention to it, and respecting that they live differently, which is totally fine. Now, if you're using metal, here you're going to focus your efforts on adapting within a single aspect of your life at one time. You can, after you've adapted, you can move on to something else, but you focus on one thing at a time, and this, when you do this, you become more adaptable, and this increases your resilience and your ability to deal with crises because you have a lot more things to draw upon, um, a lot more experience to draw upon so that you can deal with a crisis. And if you have a water day master and a strong chart, you tend to be quite scattered. You don't have any focus um, because you're too changeable. You know, you're always changing from one thing to another. So here you have to use something that weakens that, and so it's wood, fire, and earth. So if you're going to use wood, focus on education because this is, this is usually one of the better ones, and you want to just focus on one single subject. So if you are going to start college, try not to start as an undeclared major. There are things that you can. There are tests that actually available at most universities that will help you pinpoint where your interests are, even though maybe you're not quite sure of them, and that can put you into the right major for you. So try to do something like that. And of course, this doesn't mean going to university for everybody, but you can even just learn from books. Just pick a subject then and start on it. And just start one subject and try to go as far as your interest can take you. Uh, and of course, people who have strong water charts often don't have really long lasting interests. So you're going to have to push through that. That is a barrier that you have to get through. You have to study it long enough that you actually learn something significant in that subject. Now, if you're going to use fire, instead of just pushing yourself, you find a passion and you focus on it. And this stabilizes your life because you're no longer so scattered. And because you've got now something to focus on. This helps if you already have a bit of a passion and run with that passion and really work on it. Again, you have to make some significant progress before you move on to something else. It's not that you can only do that the rest of your life, but you have to give it enough time so that you actually accomplish something. And using earth, again, you're looking for more stability. And it could be in your job, where you're living, or your relationships. What this does, because you have this stability, it gives you the ability to focus without worrying about so many things. Um, if you've got a good, stable job and you have a house that you like and is good to live in, not falling apart, that kind of thing, and you've got a good relationship, then it's much more easy to focus on what's important. Now, using your favorable elements is not easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it and would have a much more balanced life. But it doesn't mean that you should ignore this. Using it can really improve your life. And the more unbalanced your chart is, the more you need this. And remember, when you have a more balanced chart, whether it comes from the elements in your chart or by the actions you take to help balance it, then you have more opportunities. And that's the whole point here. You want to have more opportunities. You want to be someone that people will go to for help, and you help them and you get a piece of their pie, basically. So start small, work your way up to bigger efforts. This is always the way to do it because these things aren't easy. So start small. Now, you cannot change your Batsa, but you can learn and use the skills of your favorable elements to balance your life and make it smoother. And that's what this is all about. Again, the farther you are from being balanced, the more you need to use your favorable elements. So that was very, very long, and I'd like to congratulate you if you made it here. It's over an hour. So this is a pretty intense video, and I really like to congratulate you for making it this far. And I really want to thank you for watching because this really shows that you're interested. Thank you again.